This is the C-Motion Cinefade VariND.
Cinema 5D at CineGear 2019 is brought to you by Tilta, arm your camera. Fomex, devoted to remarkable light. Laowa, unique cinema and photography lenses. And Blackmagic Design, creating amazing solutions for film, post-production, and television.
Hey everybody, Grant Mailer-Sheldon here from Cinema5D.com. Welcome to CineGear 2019 here in Los Angeles, California. On my right is Oliver from Cinefade, and I'm just impressed by the Cinefade because there's multiple applications and it also does a very specific effect, called the Cinefade. So walk me through the product, Oliver.
So the product is the C-Motion Cinefade VariND. What it is a variable ND filter. And as you said, it's got 5 applications. So the most interesting one is the Cinefade effect, where we slave the iris motor to the variable ND filter. So every time you open or close the iris to change the depth of field, the variable ND filter will counteract that exposure change to keep the exposure constant. So all you're seeing is a change in depth of field without a change in exposure.
Should we try that out right now?
Sure, let's do it.
All right.
We've got you in the foreground here on your shot.
Right.
I am at a T1.9 right now, and then I can gradually transition from a 1.9 to a T11 in this case, and back again. So all I'm doing on the hand unit here, on the C Pro hand unit, is changing the iris slider to change the depth of field, and the system automatically compensates for the exposure.
Very interesting. All right, so that's the Cinefade effect, if you will.
That's right, that's a Cinefade effect, and the other thing you can do is you can just use it as a variable ND filter. So what you can do is you can assign any one of the 4 axes on the C Pro hand unit to control the variable ND filter. I like to have it on the thumb wheel here or on the joystick, because if you're doing like an interior to exterior shot on a Steadicam, and you want to control your exposure, you want to keep the exposure the same, but keep the depth of field the same as well, to keep the consistent look, you can just assign it to one of the axes here, and during the transition, use the thumb wheel to change the ND value.
Very cool. What other features with the Cinefade system?
Remotely controlled variable ND with the C Pro hand unit, or directly controlled, directly on the filter. And then remotely controlled polarizer or directly controlled polarizer. Those are the 5 main features. Let me show you the filter. I'll just take it out for you. Oh, there we are. So these are the buttons I was talking about. You can directly control the ND filter. You can also separate the 2 polarizers. So now I just have a motorized polarizer here, which you can use to, for example, control car reflections remotely as well as directly. So if you're on a Russian arm and you want to control the car reflections, you just use the C Pro hand unit to control the filter directly.
So like everybody out there, I want to be very careful about what I'm putting in my matte box for all sorts of reasons. So there's a lot of programmatic stuff happening here. Am I getting any reflections? Is there any color shift? Talk to me about that.
So there is no visible color shift. There's always going to be some color shift technically if you're looking at your scopes, but you can't actually see it up to a 5-stop Cinefade range. You also don't see any changes in polarization effects. As long as you're rotating the filter on the back, you won't see any changes in reflections or in blue skies.
No light leaks or anything like that?
No light leaks, no.
And talk to me about the Cinefade effect specifically. That's maybe not something I would use all the time, but for specific moments it might be very interesting.
Absolutely. I think it's a really cool storytelling tool. So at a very dramatic moment, as you can see on our show reel, there's a clip of The Commuter where the character Liam Neeson plays is being fired from his job. And at that moment, the Cinefade effect happens because it's a very pivotal moment in the film. So I think it works well in those dramatic moments, but it also works well to, for example, reveal a bad guy in the background. So if you're going from a shallow depth of field, gradually transitioning to a deep depth of field to reveal an antagonist in the background, I think that's a really cool way of working with it as well. I'm interested in seeing how DPs will use it and experiment with it, because it is a new form of cinematic expression. It is a new storytelling tool that hasn't been used in cinema so far. So I'm just excited to see how people will use it for creative reasons, but also for practical reasons. So here at Cinegear yesterday, I was talking to a DP who had the issue of keeping two people in focus, going from a one-shot to a two-shot, and keeping both people in focus. And the way he would have done that is to just extend the depth of field and then go back to a shallower depth of field for the one shot again. An effect that you wouldn't notice in the cinema as an audience member, but definitely as a DP, it'll make you happy because you'll have a sharp focus on both your subjects.
Yes, of course. Now, we have limited power options when it comes to cameras and especially handheld shoulder work. How are we powering the C-Motion Cinefade?
There are two ways. So you can directly power this from a battery with a D-tap cable, and that way you can control the ND or the polarizer directly on the filter, or you can use it with the C Pro lens control system, where in this case we are drawing power from our RS, from the Alexa. We're daisy chaining that with the motors and to the VariND.
Pricing and availability?
Available now, shipping since about 3 months, and retail is 7,980 euros, which I think is about $9,500 today.
Yeah, I think that's about right. All right, Oliver, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for dropping by.
Stay tuned to more continuing coverage from Cinegear 2019, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.